Maboyka, ituno kinati auno. Yes. Warhub, zamatat, wu, zamal, you know. Bienvenido, mi hermanas, mi hermanos. Welcome, sisters and brothers, man. How you doing? This is entitled Real Talk. I'm not going to stay here too long, but just for an acknowledgement, I'd like to acknowledge Nayal Mahdi in the building. Thank you very much for watching, you know. And let me get started. This is entitled Real Talk. Real talk. I'm just chilling out today at the house. I did take my walk. For those of you who follow me on Facebook, you see that every day I take a little walk, and I speak about certain things. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna go over that in a little bit. But it's overcast here in North Carolina. I'm over here looking out my window. It is overcast. It rained all morning today. You know what I'm saying? But it's beautiful weather, man. I mean, I got the window up and it feels wonderful. The breeze, man, just feel wonderful. Got to do a little cleaning in my room, that's for sure. But anyway, this is real talk, man. I want to speak with you about that. So on my Facebook Live, I spoke about the separatism and how all this division is being amplified out here. So much division and separatism. So don't get me wrong. I'm not into this kumbaya thing. Unity and peace and unity and blah, blah. I mean, it's great. It's always good to propagate that. You know what I'm saying? But be real. Reality is that people carry their own perspective, their different lens, and the way they see things. That is to be acknowledged. So, like last night, I got on the brother. What's going on, Earl Datkins in the house, Rahubat. And so I got on Sabir Bays. Last night I couldn't sleep, so I see that he was on late at night. So I got on, and so he's a little, he's having a little discord with certain narratives, with certain people that he was inviting them to come on in, let's discuss this. How he doesn't subscribe to the whole idea label of being black. You know what I'm saying? And you see a lot of Moorish brothers, especially when they deal with the Moorish science, they don't subscribe to that. Black. They subscribe to more. And then you have a lot of brothers and sisters in the black conscious community that does not subscribe to more. But then Sabir Bey was pointing out that I believe prior to the 1600 or 1500s or something like that, I really forget the dates, or even prior to Christopher Columbus in the 1492, that there was a term called blackamoor. When you go to England, you see this, and that also was used in the Americas, blackamoor. You see? Blackamoor. So you separate, blackamoor, you separate, so now you got black and Moors, but they saying blackamoor. So if you call yourself Moor, according to that narrative, you're already calling yourself half of what really the term is. And they're saying that the term Moor predates the term black. Well, actually, black is a term meaning more and more turning black or negro or moroi, moresco, and so on. So it all depends on who's telling the story. So you see how certain civilization named certain tribes in Africa, named them Moors, especially the Berbers. that came into Andalusia, Moors, right? And then later on, that morphed into blackamoors. So as to make a distinction between what is it, blackamoors, white Moors, Hispanic, you know what I'm saying? Make a distinction. So again, we come into terminologies that we have to be very careful. It separates us. It separates us. You know what I'm saying? It separates. Now, I did bring up to him the term ma indala. Ma indala. Excuse me. I did bring up the term ma indala and how this civilization that birthed Maande scripts, Ma, that birthed Ma'at, and that birthed Kemet, birthed Sumeria for Mahagari, birthed, again, Kush. And this civilization, according to archaeology, paleoanthropologists, bones that they found, and oral traditions on the historicity of African history. You see this in the Mali oral traditions, and you see this in that area, the Congo Basin. They unearth fauna and fossils from the Green Sahara, from Sahara, determining that it was a green garden, flourishing rivers and all that, the Congo Basin and all this whole area. You heard the term that oral traditions term as ma indala. Dambali, dambali, dambalo, dambali, dambalu, ma indala, which birth ma. You know what I'm saying? So I brought that in. You know what I'm saying? So are we Mande people? That's the cradle, right? That birthed into Kush. Because Kush, again, remember Kush is a word that also, I'm going to find the word Kush in Kisha, Kush, Kushite. You know what I'm saying? Ethiopia, he mentioned Ethiopia. But Ethiopia, it's a Roman term, a Greco-Roman term, because you got ether, which to the Sabiic Oman, it would be ahach, right? Etheric is ahach or ahach, right? In that language. But ether spelled Aethe, because they used to put the A together when Greco-Roman. And then ether, utopia, Ethiopia. When you see the EA at the end, is usually letting us know, the terminative is letting us know that it is of a Romanized concept. Romanized. That seeped into many different, like California, Virginia. It went into the English, it went into Europe, that particular EA, right? And so these are terms, when you look at linguistics, these are terms that you can trace it to a specifically a specific lens of a civilization. So Ethiopia, yes, there were a time, because again, depending on the civilization, the perspective of that civilization, named Ether, Utopia, Ethiopians, right? But what did the people themselves call themselves? They didn't call themselves more unless they were Berbers in Andalusia, and the term Moro, because they were learning, again, Moorish Latin, so it became Moro, right? Now, if you go into ancient time, you got the city of Moroe, that can be possible. You see the red fez-like throne hat that was worn in Moroe amongst the Kushite. You know what I'm saying? So that can be a possibility. But they didn't call themselves more, a mu'ur. Moro. You know what I'm saying? Because they didn't speak that language. What did they speak? What did they call themselves within their language? You know. But I'm careful. You do got to understand that people carry different perspectives. You got to recognize that, and then those pieces got to put it together. So that was the conversation. You know what I'm saying? Last night, and you see amongst, and then there's a little platform that uses that, of course, to cause debates and stuff like that, so that viewership and again the bag economics. At the core of it is all economics. Let me tell you, all economics. Um, so it's very interesting that when you can see this division and this separatism taking place, right? But again, like Abiso Campos says, you arm the youth with the truth, with knowledge. That's going to prevent them from being conquered and enslaved. So we, as a people here in the diaspora, which is going to lead me to another conversation I had, because I was in the summit on the class today with the African Union, with the particular parliament, um, with that African Kingdom Federation, and so I lost my thought on that. I'm sorry about that. It's been happening lately a lot, but I'm working on it. I'm in my second curve, yo. I'm in my second curve. If you guys checked out my podcast before about the second curve, you know, 60 years old, so I'm on my second curve, but it's coming out pretty well. So again, when you're able to see all the pieces and then fit it perfectly together, because you're looking at it from a humanistic perspective. You know what I'm saying? From a humanistic perspective, and that's the core of a lot of the teachings and mentoring and sharing that I'm doing. Is looking at it from a humanistic perspective, but at the same time being very tentative and being very respectful for people lenses, because at the end of the day people carry different lenses, perspective. And so these talking points also become economical for them. But the core of it is economics. The core of it is economics. You know what I'm saying? Because that's ecology, which I'm going to lead later on. I do a podcast about the ECOWAS and the economy of how we are economically based people, and we can develop our civilization to becoming an economic base. You know what I'm saying? Very, very important. So again, what I was leading to is that when you arm our youth with knowledge, skills and knowledge and truth, the truth is truth. The more truth you arm them with, the less they're able to become conquered and enslaved. And so I reach out to my brothers and sisters, well, my sisters and brothers, especially from the islands, because I was at the African Union, and Africa's doing very well. Zimbabwe stepped it up when it comes to training for ambassadorship and training to go out. We're training so as for this narrative, this humanitarian narrative, to propagate it more. You know what I'm saying? Of course, there's other propagation that goes for nation propagation, and then I'm going to speak about that. The nation propagation is important, but now we're dealing with humanity, and also assisting countries, especially those of the African Union and of the of the different regions, African diaspora and Africa itself, and even reaching out to Europe and to Middle East, is to have initiative agendas to stop hunger and poverty, to help humanity balance the fourth industrial revolution with natural and nature. So all of this comes into play. That's thinking on a humanistic humanity level. You know what I'm saying? But before we get there, we got to take that step. So yeah, it's important. I always stress, as now speaking from a national, I always stress the importance of language. See, I learned a little bit of Taino, but that language has been infused with the Spanish in the Caribbean, with the Moorish Latin. You have a lot of Taino words infused in there. But then that's to be, respected. At the same time, when we learn a ancient language, right? And we trace it back to an ancient language. So now we're learning the Maande language and the different derivatives of the Maande language. You know what I'm saying? Different derivatives. The Sabiic language, Mispatia, it's an ancient language, even though it evolved to, as time goes on, words are added and evolves into today. You know what I'm saying? That language. But the Sabiic language, when you go into archaeology and anthropology, and you go into archaeology, you find stones and they carbon dated and they go back and they dated. You find stones throughout Ethiopia, throughout Sudan, Ethiopia, Yemen, South Arabia, even to Iraq. You find these stones with these glyphs. And so you have to say, wow, the dating, the time sequence is important. And so in humanity, when you arm your children with, again, they have their language, their national language, but now humanity have to look at language, how it developed from the core, which is the Maande, from the cradle of civilization. The first civilization. Wow, that's a Lamborghini. I get a lot of Lamborghinis coming through here. It's crazy. So the Maande script and the Maande language from the Ma Federation, who became Ma people, right? Mandala became the Ma people. Ma is from the cradle. And that cradle, again, remember, it extends to that continent known today as Africa. But that continent had many different names depending on the perspective and depending on the people going in there and conquering. But still, the core of it, Mali, still stood. Within the Congo, you find that, word, right? Within the Congo, within Benin, even in West Africa, you find remnants of that tone. Mandala, 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 right? Right? Mandala. So you find this. And so this is very, very important. And again, the derivative of that, because if you look at the Sabia glyphs, you see similarities within the Maande Kakikoi language in that Lahaj. You find the similarity because that's the cradle and everything birthed out of it. So you find glyphs in Sumeria. You're gonna find glyphs even in India. People take their glyphs, they take their culture with them. So these are hunter gatherers. They travel and they spread out. You know what I'm saying? So you see this happening. And so when you're able to trace it in the truth and lined it up with archaeology and anthropology, paleoanthropology, lined it up with science, it now is balanced with natural nature and oral traditions. You know what I'm saying? Peace and everybody watching. So when I introduce this, and that's the study, the research I'm doing, because again, tying the Iberian Peninsula, what they call the Ibero-Mauritania, the Iberian Peninsula, all the Berbers, and tying them back into the Sahara, tying them back into the Maande, right? tying ancient Kemet into the Maande. And on the Western Hemisphere, okay, tying in Tainos, the Caribbeans with it. And that's why I'm doing research with the Mali Empire in learning about the Mali Empire and determining is this true that Abu Bakari, when 2,000 ships from this continent came here to America 200 years before Christopher Columbus and amalgamated themselves into the culture of the native, of the Mesoamerican, of the people coming from the Yucatan, people coming from the inner side, the Topi people from Brazil, Yucatan, Toltec, Inca, Maya, you know what I'm saying? So now you have a lineage, a bloodline, a lineage amalgamating themselves. You're talking about 2,000 ships. You're talking about a lot of people here coming to this side and amalgamating, getting, and not going back home, staying. So then you find, and then I say, well, is this true? So I have to find little clues and research and saying, whoa, wait a minute. Look at the Cherokee script. And that came later on. Now the Inca script would be different, right? But when they amalgamated with the Maande script, now you're getting something like Cherokee, Choctaw, Yamasee script. You're getting these scripts that in those glyphs, you see it in the Maande glyph, Kakakoi. You see it in there. And you're saying, whoa, what's going on here? There is something they're not telling us for a reason. So this affinity, this quest leading to this is like, as Taino people, as American, that's another thing that I brought up to the brother. I said, look at the word American, Puerto Rican, Borinquen, look at not so much Quisqueya, Cubana, but you got Borinquen, Kang, you got wherever, or even African, where you see the word Kang at the end, American, Kang, again, linguistically, in that book that was published in Harvard 1920 in Harvard University, those letters, they made a comparison between the word Khan, Khan, Kcan, and Konne, Konen, Khan, which is a Mande word. Mande word linguistically. Kaan. When you look into the Maande oral tradition and talking about the Kaan. So you see African, American, you know what I'm saying? And you see this linguistically is happening. So you're putting these pieces together. We're putting, I might be far reaching, but as you go on through the research, you get to see more. So this is, called separatism. Because imagine you got people from Africa coming here, amalgamating with the Native American and spreading out. And so you have families against family. You have this huge separation going on, dividing and conquer. And not only here in the Western Hemisphere, but also in the Eastern Hemisphere. It happens. It even happens amongst the Europeans with the the Anglo-Saxons, the Celtics, and this and that, and all the different lineage and families that had discord or had certain conflict, you know, So this is we're here to learn about conflict. We're here to learn about that and to put those pieces together as for all humanity. You know what I'm saying? so we can understand the cradle of civilization, understand the cradle of humanity, understand the cradle of even the continent shifts and how that worked with Pangea, Ganawa, and what is it? Rodovia. I can't even pronounce that last one. Rhodesia, no, not Rhodesia. Rhonodia. Is it Rhonodia? Rhonidia. Well, there was three supercontinent, depending on the time system. And so that also, you see that played out even in oceanography and, and geography. The pieces that put together. So you get to the cradle of what they call the continent, supercontinent. And you see how all the other continents shifts away from this particular continent known as Africa today, because it's stuck to the crust of the earth. You know what I'm saying? And the shipping, and we discussed a lot of things today. I'm not going to reveal too much of it today. But anyway, so, real talk is, see the separatism, this perspective, and everybody needs to be, acknowledged. You know what I'm saying? Even when it comes to religion, you see the separatism. You know what I'm saying? Everybody wants to be right. Everybody wants to be right. But it's not about being right. It's about being truthful. Understanding truth and how truth works. Define truth. All those pieces of the puzzle fit perfectly, neatly together. That's truth. And so people, oh, you think you know it all. You always right. And not that I'm right and not that I'm wrong. It's just that I'm resonating only with truth. Things are being revealed. Things are being revealed. I'm resonating like that. I'm resonating. And there's nothing wrong with resonating, but at the same time balancing, knowing what's falsehood and what's true. Right? And everything is always going to be half truth, but there's going to be more added on to it. So you can never know it all. You can know the all, right? But knowing the all is transcendental. It's in vast. You know what I'm saying? But if you stay truthful, that means if you honor the skills of putting these pieces perfectly together, then you're on your way. And that's what's this energy center, which is resonance, which is communication, is reciprocal to your solar plexus, your willpower. So when you are engaged in truth gives you willpower. Willpower. So now reciprocally, that willpower, right? That energy shoots up to your communication. So when you communicate, it's forceful. You stand on it. And you're not afraid for anybody to come on and question you, because they're on the quest. So they're going to question you. And be sincere of how you're going to ask that question to see, what do I know and what do I don't know? Because I want to find out the things that I don't know. That's what I want to find out. What I don't know about this. It's the way I'm at. Because what I don't know, then it becomes revealed to me. And when something becomes revealed to you, then you make the distinction between what's reality and what's an illusion. You know? Then you resonate it, you communicate it, and when you communicate either your truth or your falsehood, right? But at the core of it is resonance. How you resonating. And if you resonate more towards a beneficial way, right? A sociable way, it's all good. You know what I'm saying? It's perfect. Now you can, again, on your second curve, be a mentor, a teacher, and a man of wisdom, walking around with wisdom. Because in wisdom, which is knowing what's right and wrong in the history thing, is where you gain knowledge. That's an old Sufi practice on Sons of the Green Light. We gain knowledge by the wisdom, by knowing what's good and bad in the history of things, because you experience certain things or you experimenting, you know what's right and wrong in the history of a thing. And that's how you obtain knowledge. See? Your intelligence is crystallized. Your intelligence is crystallized. And so you live your second curve. You prolong your life because now you become a mentor and a teacher. You know what I'm saying? So in speaking about the African Union, what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite certain sisters and brothers, some acquaintance I have, to also sit at the summit as guests, come and sit at the summit. And because, there's a lot of good work being done there by some of the acquaintances that I know. And again, don't get it twisted. It's not all about Africa, Africa, Africa. And then, it's not all about that. It's humanity. But we got to start somewhere. When you look at the cradle of humanity, you cannot help but look at that continent, that landmass. You can't. Archaeologists know this. Anthropologists know this. What they call the out of the Africa. It's just they get caught up in that word Africa. But we're talking about humanity and the cradle of all humanity that so far is leading us to say this continent. And when you look at oceanography, geography, and you say this continent, right? And the people of this continent have an old lineage, human long lineage, like the Khoi and the San people that's still there, and the Pataites, the Twa people that are still there. When they do DNA sequences and they DNA testing, they find out they're one of the oldest Homo sapiens genetics is there, and haplogroups right there. Right there. And so when you look at this cradle and you go through oral tradition, the cradle, whatever, civilization, whatever, and then you come to learn words like mandele. And that, take it and I say, let's put it all together. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. We come from the waters of our mothers. That's moya, right? Ma. And we call our ma. Why? We practice magic. You know what I'm saying? Why? You know what I'm saying? Phonetically, it leads up to that. You know? So this is important. So again, I want to also, as far as building communities and building, nation state, and we had a nice conversation with my brother Aminuma, and we spoke about nation building over there. Shout out to Emperor Khufu. Shout out to all those brothers that are trying to do what they need to do. But again, if you're not sincere, it's going to leak out. It's going to be revealed. You could fool some people, but you can't fool all of them. It's going to be revealed. You may have great ideas and but if you are not sincere and you're not careful of the narrative that you take on, it's going to be difficult for you. You're going to reveal yourself. So when it comes to nation building, yes, you say, well, what experience? I come from a school, the University of Truth, Ansarullah University of Truth, and I'm honored to have met Panaba Yananin. At that time we knew him as Ali Mamisa El Hadi, Muhammad El Hadi. My name back then was Abdul Suboru Abdul Muhammad, right? Under that school of thought and that Sufi, also they call me Subor because of that school of thought. And being with a community, a university that was building a community. And so you say, what experience? Man, I was 17 years old, 41 years ago. And brothers could tell you, we went out with newspapers, opened it up, and said, this is a school. It was a drawing, architectural drawing This is a school that we want to build. And so we're asking if you want to buy some books, because we're going to sell you products, some incense oils. We have product to support. We're building the economic base to build a school called the Hall of Knowledge. We did it. We have the experience of building a school. I have the experience, as I was able to do construction, of going down and gutting down the basement, right? And pulling out those walls, stone walls, out of the, and getting those buildings to build this Hall of Knowledge. We have experience of building a community, building a nation. Even today's day and time, you have cultural centers throughout. We don't get together as much as we want to, as Sabians and Wapians, but still, or Ansars of the Natarus, helpers of the Natarus, we don't get it, but we're still here. The experience, you can't take that away. I was 17 years old, y'all. 17, freshly out of high school, going into New York University. CNAP, School of Education, Nursing, and Arts Profession. I was in the arts profession, college, at New York University. So in the Ansarullah University of Truth, we was building. This is nation building from the core. We knew that language was part of it. So we got away from the Arabic and went into the Nubic and the Wapic. Our Arabic was different than those Arab nations. Even Hamza-Din, the oud player, spoke a different form of Arabic from the Nile Valley, Nile River, from the Nile Valley, because he was from a tribe from the Nile Valley. He was uncle to Yananin, and he was from that tribe, from Sudan, from the Nile Valley, that spoke a different type of Arabic. Like we speak a different Spanish. We speak a Moorish Spanish, right? And then when you go to Caribbean, we speak even a Taino Moorish Spanish, right? So languages changes. But we have the experience, the experimentation, of course, and the experience of nation building, starting from a group to a tribe to a nation. Forget about country. Because it's not about, that's one thing we spoke about today. It's not about the land, it's about the people. A people could be a nation and might not have land, because land masses changes and they migrate. But a nation of people, we have the experience of bringing Israelites, Christians, occultists, Native Americans, all under one banner. We have the experience of that. Don't get it twisted. We can go into the island of Borinquen and bring all these different social political groups together, because we have the experience to do that. And we know that a lot of it has to do with tones and language, lengua, lahaj, linsani, lisan, lahaj, la lengua. We know that's important. And that's nation building. And then we know about the glyphs. We're now to a point with the Sabian glyph. And we had glyphs from back then. The Yamasi glyph, and we go on down, and now we got the Sabian glyph and the Maande glyph. I might be jumping the gun here, but it's the Maande glyph. And we're on and on and on. As to, you know what I'm saying? To put those pieces together. Put those pieces together. So why is that so important? Because it creates an affinity for humanity and for the planet and the solar system. That affinity for that. when you shoot yourself out, imagine you shoot yourself out into space and you look down, you don't see color. You don't see nations. You don't see any of that. All you see is what, continents, landmass, but you don't see any other of those things. You know what I'm saying? And then the further you go, you see a planet. And so the caring, ashuk, paut, the expansion is important here. Because we're looking at things from again, beyond transcendental mind, beyond the stars, and looking back down onto humanity, Earth, and saying, hey, for one, the planet has its character and personality. It has its state, it also gets sick. It has to heal itself. It's doing what it has to do in order to survive, and live and sustain living things, organism on this planet. That's important. So when we put on that big lens like that, we come to realize that it's so important for you to get to the truth. For one, it's the cradle. Because this planet birthed from the solar system, birthed from another galaxy. And so where is the cradle of it? See? That's going into another, man, and that's what we've learned to do with Panaba Yanun, who was the teacher of the cosmos. That character and personality, that primordial being. But that's another conversation. We're not going to go to that. I'll have that conversation one day, not to spook anybody out. But what we're doing here now, humanity, what we're doing here at the core, right, is again balancing ourselves. Balancing ourselves again with technology, which is going to be something that's going to be developed. Technology is going to develop, but we have to make sure that it's developed that is going to be beneficial, conducive, and beneficial to natural nature and humanity, which is part of natural nature, but the beneficial part, right? The survival, the legacy, the survival of it, of a living organism on this planet. That's important. We are caretakers. We've been left behind, like they say in religion. Khalifa, right? Left behind to care for this planet. Natural nature left us behind to care for this planet. To care for humanity. Because once you care for humanity, you're going to care for your planet. And you're going to look. And then you have to care for your group and you have to care for yourself. So that's why this, I later on tonight, I'm going to do more of the 19 courses, which is very important. And I want to see who out there is willing to train and do the work so that when the kingdom, the queendom, and when the parliament is set and there's economic base, because there's a bank, and there's economic base and stretch out to the African diaspora, you're there and you can initiate certain programs that can help humanity. That's the core of it, building that economics. And for the Sabiic brothers, it's the same thing. We're building in economics to sustain us. And at the same time, now we have a collateral. See, we have a huge collateral when it comes to Sabians and Nuwapians. Our collateral is the knowledge, the book of knowledge, the knowledge that we have from Panaba Yananin. And we were able to create an economic base on that. An economic base. Yeah. And speaking about economics, this is for all those who's going to watch this in the future. You know what I'm saying? And at any point of time, that's my Cash App scrolling in the bottom, $ CLOS 1211, and my PayPal is right there. PayPal me at CLOS 1961. PayPal. You know what I'm saying? But that's the link. You have to go directly to the link. Because if not, people out there can copy that link, create. You got a lot of hackers out there. But anyway, you know, Cash App, stuff like that. But you see, the economic base that we're creating in terms of the fourth industrial revolution, and again, is to again create, is to contribute to humanity. Contribute to humanity. That currency is important. And then you contribute to humanity. You know what I'm saying? And you do the work. You do the work constantly. I told the class today in the African Union, I told the class today that I'm 60 years old. I'm living my second curve. In other words, I don't have that fluid intelligence like before, even though I do have some of it, but not as much. So I see the whining, I see the decline a little bit. So I have what they call crystallized, the second chance, a second curve we call crystallized intelligence, which is the part where you become mentor, you become a writer, you become a mentor, you become a teacher, right? You start sharing your craft, the information that your expertise, you start sharing those things. And so I share with you that I have 41 years propagating in the street, 41 years in the doctrine. I'm sharing that. I have more than, wow, I say 50 years of playing percussion. I was 9 years old when I really got the core and really got into it at 9 years old. You know what I'm saying? So you're talking about at 9 years old, you're talking about 51 years. So I'm able to now write, I'm able to mentor, I'm able to teach and share that skill, right? And that's the second wave. And then also nation building, with the doctrine and knowing that economic base, you know what I'm saying? Economic base, you know? But you got people that are born with crystallized intelligence, no doubt about it. I spoke about that. You know what I'm saying? But that's very, very important. It prolongs your life. It prolongs your life to give you a worth. Because now, when certain things are declining in your life, you says, man, but now I got opportunity now to teach. It creates a whole new, career for you, teaching and mentoring and stuff like that. Especially when you have experience, you have that wisdom. You have that wisdom. So the wisdom, knowing what's good and bad in terms of nation building. Oh man, the mistakes we made. I could tell you one thing about nation building that's very important that I've learned is that we need other sciences like behavioral science. We need those behavioral scientists, psychology, not so much psychology, but those you need to elevate elders more because they have that wisdom and that behavioral science is so very important. You see, that's a mistake that a nation can do is because even amongst Native Americans, these children are brought up in a reservation. And when they go out of the reservation, now they're being taught oral tradition. They're being taught about this reservation and the world outside of them from that lens in out, they see a certain way. But then when they go out into the world, out of the reservation, they totally see different things. See, that's why it's important. Behavioral science is very important when it comes to nation building. That's what I learned. Even for your family. With your family, you raise your children within the family, within the group, within the family, they call it family. But when they go out to the street, the peer pressure and all that takes over. And you wonder, but I didn't bring my kids. But then because behavioral science, if we investigate and we learn about behavioral science and we communicate that to our children as to make them wise at an early age, wise, that they're going to know, at least they're going to have a clue of what's good and bad in the history of things. You know what I'm saying? and how important it is. So behavioral science was something that we kind of lacked a little bit when it comes to nation, but among Sabians and Nuwapians, we kind of lacked that a little bit back in the day. But in today's day and time, we don't live that life. So now we're out scattered. We're out in the world. Now we have to learn, well, you took us from that world. You took us from our country. You took us from our core, but you can't take the core out of me. You displaced me and took me out of my core, out of my country, but you can't take the country out of me, my core teachings out of me. You took us away from my master teacher, but you can't take the master teacher out of me. You know what I'm saying? You can't do that. And so we're going to fight to have Panabayananin with us at the same time, because we know it's so much a part of our core. And that should be acknowledged. That should be honored for anybody that's like that. It should be honored. But again, a lot of things comes into play, 135 years, decay. Politics comes into play, and this and that, you know what I'm saying? Morals and ethics comes into play and things like that. But we got to be careful when we deal with that. But then how is that going to affect our children? That's why I said invest in behavioral science. Learn it. Get to learn behavioral science. That's why I in my last podcast, I spoke about the second curve, because that's behavioral science. And that's coming from Harvard Business School, because that's economics and learning about behavioral science. Because a lot of times when we're young, even if we're Sabine and you're Nuwap, man, you got a lot of fluid intelligence. But then when that starts to decline, how are you able to have a second wave, second chance, second curve, which is called, again, crystallized intelligence, wisdom, teaching and mentoring what you have already experienced, hoping that your children and your community, who's part of a community, who's part of a group, part of a community, part of a nation, a tribe, part of a nation, a nationality, part of a city, part of a state, part of a country, part of a continent, part of a planet, part of a solar system, part of a galaxy. Behavioral science is very, very important. And so, real talk, man, real talk. It's, morals and ethics, when you look it up, and I've done it before, but just to reiterate it, it's having tolerance for people's differences. I see your differences, man. I see how you get down, and I'm tolerant of that. But when it comes for you having a discussion with me, right, I'm going to share with you what I know. It's only right that I have to share what I know to know what I don't know. You know what I'm saying? And that's the attitude you should also have when you engage in a conversation with somebody. I want to find out what I don't know. Let's build on this. It's what's called build. You build on something. Very important. Very, very important. You build. You stack things up. You build. So I want to find out what I don't know. And I'm going to come with you with a wisdom, knowing what's right and wrong in the history of things. And right now I'm finding out a lot. I'm finding out, and I'm looking within also. You know what I'm saying? Of how human linguistics, tones, how humanity, you know what I'm saying, evolved and how it revolved and how it originated. You know what I'm saying? And seeing this, it adds up. Some people get stuck. They got a lens. They get stuck in academia. And you see that word academia is Greek, because the Greek were invested in knowledge in those institutions. That's the reason why when you go to college, you in the fraternities, sororities, those hidden groups are Greek groups. Alpha, Theta, Alpha, comma this, the comma delta, comma, on and on and on. Beta this and beta, and those are Greek. And it's Greco-Roman, because in the Romans it's the political. When you go into the political, Greco-Roman, the Greek and Roman, the political part. And so academia, it's of a Greek construct. But that's okay. That's their tradition, which is okay. It's okay. You can learn that. But now we're giving you an African fraternity, an African sorority, Eastern Star, Freemasonry, taking it back to the cradle, to Nimrod, the 54 AD Nimrod, Sargon the second. And we're taking it back. We're going back, and we're looking into the Ma Federation. Who started the Ta Seti, land of the bow. The Ma'ande people of the core, the cradle, the first civilization out here. And so that's all I can say. Listen, I've been already here an hour, and thank you very much for any of those who listen and who's going to listen in the future. You know what I'm saying? Again, being tolerant for people's differences, so I have to do that when I get into certain different platforms and channels. And I'm tolerant for people's differences. I see how they get down. Doesn't mean you have to get down like that. It just means you can be tolerant, as long as I'm tolerant, as long as that I don't see that it's going to harm me, my family, my tribe, my nation, and humanity. Is it harmful for humanity? Well, I always let everybody know, hey, listen, I'm here to learn. I'm here to find out what I don't know, right? And I'm here to set the record straight. Set the record straight. What do you got? What do you have? Let's set the record straight. Let's put it, documented. This oral tradition. So let's put this together. You know what I'm saying? Stop playing games. A lot of people out there play games. They play games. But I don't want to take everything so seriously. Also, I have a funny bone. Also, I tell jokes. Sometimes I get in some of the channels and I start telling jokes because you gotta lively things up, and it's humorous. It's very important. You gotta be humorous. You know. But there's some people. There's some, like I said, there's some one-eyed cyclops out here. That just and that's cool. One-eyed cyclops. But they don't see. But you see the advantage that we have with, because in reality you don't have one first eye. You got two. You got this eye, which is solar plexus. That's another eye perspective, and that's feelings and emotions have another perspective, and your ideas and concept have another perspective, and that's the upper pyramid like this and the downward pyramid like this. You see this symbol a lot with Zoser, Abdul Qudus Zoser in ancient Kemet. The downward pyramid is that eye of feeling and emotion. So you see, it's not only this eye, there's an eye here too, in your umbilical cord, and that's the Ma. That's the soul, man. That's the solar plexus. That's the soul. That's the Ma, the womb perspective. You know what I'm saying? So we're giving two eyes. This eye here, this eye here, this eye here, and then the balancement. You know what I'm saying? The enlightenment, the balancement of that, So we can look at, you know what I'm saying? It's funny. So you got these one-eyed cyclops. They ain't got no eye over here. But what about the eye? The umbilical cord, is that an eye? That what they call that? The belly button. Your belly button, is that an eye? You got an eye in your belly button, bro. It takes in things. You got to clean it too. My mother used to tell me that, on a Q-tip, alcohol, clean your belly button. It helps clean your passage. It helps. Interesting. Oh yeah, there's a lot of science out here, man. You know what I'm saying? And that is it's again, you know, intuition, intuitive knowledge can open yourself up. You know, also learning, elevate elevate the elders. You got to elevate more of our elders. I elevate my elders, and I'm gonna find out what I don't know because they have an experience and they experimented and they have an experience that I don't have. I'm gonna find out, you know, and they could tell you, I made mistakes. But don't do this, don't do that. It's wisdom, and that's the second curve. That is the second curve, and that happens when you should be happening when you turn about 40 and 50, depending on the industry that you're involved with. You know what I'm saying? It's very, very important. Anyway, I want to say peace and blessing. I'm gonna do my outro, and what I was gonna do. Yeah, before I go, speaking about the Taino, I'm a member of the Confederation of Taino People because I see the work at that time that was done in the Caribbean, and the initiative and the agenda was lined up with how I was feeling at the time, and I do feel like that too because I do feel that artifacts is important, and to maintain the expression also of certain indigenous people. But then again, with my research, I'm going deep into that research of the Taino people and the amalgamation with these Maande people that came with the Mali Empire. And an empire consists of a lot of other nations, you know that. So you have people from the Congo, from Ghana, Benin. You have people from the Berbers, the people from Morocco, the Idris dynasty. Morocco that sponsors certain ships. Your empire are many nations. So when you're talking about an empire, 2,000 ship, it brought different families and lineages over here. You know what I'm saying? So that's where more I'm heading at. You know what I'm saying? It's seeing the comparison and seeing a story that's untold, telling a story that's untold in the American. See that? American. From the African to American. You know what I'm saying? Check that out. Dominican. You know? Puerto Rican. Is it so? Before I go, I'll tell a joke. And then this was told from a white supremacist. He came out and said, "I like to shoot cans. Yeah, I love shooting cans. I shoot Puerto Ricans. I shoot African. I shoot American." He said, "The cans. I like to shoot cans." You know what I'm saying? When I was told that shit by this dude, I looked at him like, "Yo, you big dumbass." I lied. I was like, "Yo, that's stupid." That's the mindset. But anyway, peace and blessings. That was kind of corny. That was a corny joke. I know. It was a corny. But anyway, peace and blessings to you all. All and blessings. I gotta remember all and blessings. But what I want to say about the Taino, I mean, I love the initiative and everything. Shout out to Chief Mukaru, Cacique Casimar Mukaru, who doing his work. I haven't heard much about of him, but I'm going to try to reach out to him, and doing that work. And I definitely have to redo my. I have to get my document and my picture ID. I got to redo that again. I promise I will do that. But a shout out to the brother doing great work. Shout out to the brother doing great work and doing what he has to do. Shout out to Dima Sanchez and Melanie Diaz. That whole, taking the Caribbean music, especially the bomba, and tracing it back to its Africanness. Women, great. And I tell them, you also got to be aware that you got Taino influences there and Berber influence also in that music. So we got to take that into account. But I like the fact that they are looking towards the cradle of civilization, and so a lot of work is going to be unearthed and revealed. And I want to invite them also to sit at the summit and hoping that can help when they get out there. And because I want to start, getting a core of individuals that I know can sit on this side in the Americas, and we can do the classes together, and we can look into ambassadorship, and we can work together as so when the African Union is ready, what I'm saying, we're ready. You know what I'm saying? We can get that funding. We can get those initiatives to come down here with those other ambassadors, get that initiative going, and we can work in our neighborhood, in our community, work in our neighborhood community. So I'm going to start inviting people from Haiti, Young Inlai, Dima Sanchez, Melanie, a couple of Sabian brothers and sisters, Sabat, that's doing work up there, New Jersey, and certain brothers and sisters get at me. Let's have a discussion. You know what I'm saying? Let's have a discussion. Whenever I'm on my line, if you shoot out to me and you want my email, I'll put it. As a matter of fact, I'll put my email. I'm not afraid to put my email on here. Let me put on my email here. Where is it? That's my email. Shoot me an email and make sure that in the description you put your name and who you are, whatever, and what you want to discuss with me. And when privately, you see, I don't always have to stream through StreamYard. I can send you a link and we can do this privately. And if you want to record it, I can record it for you and send it to you, right? Or we can do it privately. It doesn't have to be recorded and it won't even go on stream or nothing because it'll show up on top if it's live. If it's gray, I mean, it's not live. And we can have a discussion, or you have my email, you want to discuss things through Messenger, video chat or whatever. And I want to reach out. I want a lot of Nuwapian Sabians to also look at this because we had a problem with the ECOWAS, the brother mentioned, but ECOWAS is a part of the African Union also. So we want to make sure that we're at the core of things, right? And we're doing the work and we're at the core of things, that we're establishing our nations one, and at the same time our nations are becoming united with United Nations. We are a bunch of African nations, we call it the African Union, and getting that together and seeing how that beneficial for us. You know what I'm saying? Because you got a lot of, I'm telling you, you got a lot of tribes and kingdoms here in America that are scattered out. And so we got to bring everybody. Not you won't be able to bring everybody together, but at least those that want to work together, you bring them with a specific initiative and an agenda and an initiative that they can work with as to benefit their community, right? Their group, their community, their family, benefit the schools, in the community, and do the work and let the children, the youth know that, hey, we're doing the work. We're mentoring you. We're teaching you. We're sharing with you information now, that coming from the motherland, from the cradle of civilization, from the Ma Federation. Ma Federation is still alive now. We're revamping that. And that involves also the Sabiic, worldwide Sabiic, and the Wapians. You know what I'm saying? And now we're moving into that. And also to the Yamasi, Emperor Khufu too. Get at me. Here's my email. Get at me and see how you can be introduced, you know, to the African Union, whatever, because and how it can help you establishing your ship and more, like you said, moving your ship. You know what I'm saying? How that can help also in moving your ship. So when you're ready to put things into play, you're ready to do things that's going to be beneficial for you, beneficial for the tribe. You got to be sincere, integrity, and you want to move forward. There's going to be initiative. It's going to be help because a lot of these kingdoms and queendoms has the experience. has the experience. And you know that Sabaeans, the Ansar, brothers that lived back in days in Ansar Allah in the land, they have the experience of nation building. And those are the ones, the people you need around you. But at the same time, you want to create an initiative so that we can heal the planet, heal humanity. You know what I'm saying? Heal the planet and heal humanity. And be up on things. You got the fourth industrial revolution rolling in. 2030, that's it. It's all over. You know what I'm saying? But we got this rolling in, and we want to make sure that it is that natural nature. We're protectors, Natharu, overseers of Natharu, of nature. When you get the word nature from nature, Natharu, you know, we're overseers of Natharu. Ansar. The word Ansar, Nasaru is Natharu. Ansar, Ansar, right? Ansar, helper of Natharu. Nature, natural nature. And then we can break it down to Nuwapu and Nupu, Saba. Saba means seven kingdoms coming out of Saba, 7 kingdoms, right? That spread out, that came from the Ma Federation. So all of this is history. This is written, documented. This is not something coming out of my freaking head now. This is things that I read. These are documented. This is archaeology, anthropology, oral tradition from the actual tribes in Africa. You see, once you sit in the summit, you see a lot of these chiefs as ambassadors, a lot of these chiefs sitting in these seats, speaking with you and telling you this is oral tradition. This is how we get down here in Africa. This is, you know what I'm saying? I'd like to see more chiefs here in the Americas because there are chiefs. I mentioned that to the Imperial Majesty Kasambu Red today when she was speaking. You know, I chatted with her and I told her, you know, that there are chiefs also in the America, in the Latin, in the Native American, you know, paradigm. That there are chiefs. There's emperors. The Emperor Vadishi from the Louisiana. That's emperor. Look at the emperor, what they call himself, Emperor Khufu. And chiefs of, and then the other guy, and the other brothers that are chief of certain clans. So you have chiefs and you have emperors. 2 different things. And so there's emperors here that have kingdoms. That some of the kingdoms are the people and they're restarting the kingdom all over again. And then of course you have a president, and you have I won't even say our president. You have our master teacher, Panaba Yananin, right? Who's at the core of it. You know what I'm saying? On this Western hemisphere. So there's a lot that we can, you know, put together. You know what I'm saying? And so to contribute to humanity, it's about humanity. So I don't mind working with European countries. I don't mind working with my Italian brothers and sisters. I don't mind working with anybody, especially when they're able to trace their migration, trace it back from the cradle of civilization. Then it's on. You know what I'm saying? It's just that, again, you have those anti-sociable people. Peace and blessings. Little Mario, what's going on? Yeah, little Mario, peace and blessings to you. So it's just you have some anti-sociable people. And remember, we spoke about anti-sociable people or people that want to cause harm. They want to steal, cause harm, cause conflict. I mean, these anti-sociable people, sometimes they're not and then there are people that are suppressive personality that was brought up by anti-sociable people. You know, I had that father that hit me a lot. He was antisocial. He was negative. He was harmful. You know what I'm saying? He beat up my mother and he stole in the community. He was hating. He was antisociable and raising up children in a suppressive environment. You created a suppressive personality. We got to fix all of that. I fixed it within myself and my family. We got to fix all of that. All of that. My family knows they can't come with me talking on this pessimistic or this negative. If you want to deal with pessimism and you want to deal with that, then I do it as what you call the death meditation. And I do it to myself so I can elevate and progress past that. That's it. But I don't allow nobody else to tell me that shit. That's a pessimistic. That's a suppressive personality. Those are suppressive environment that you cannot get your work done. You always find yourself not completing your work. You always find yourself confused. Things happen and you say, so why? And then you always asking the question, why things like this? Boo, boo, boo. I cannot do this. Waste your time doing that. No, my family knows you don't talk to me like that. Even my moms know. Mom, please, please. Do not tell me, sometimes you out of good faith, hey, listen, you need to wake up. You need to do, this is this and this and that. But it's the way you tell that to somebody. At the same time, when you do that, you make sure, like also the death meditation, you make sure you have the antidote to that. You know what I'm saying? Don't just come out negative, speak negative about a person if you don't have something positive to replace that negative. You know what I'm saying? Don't do that. Because then that's just suppressive personality. And then I got to look at you and say, oh, you was raised by an antisociable parents or somebody in your family, antisociable environment. Or parents, usually your parents, they were antisociable. We created these environments around where we live. And it don't have to be that way because, like I tell you, I have experience in nation building. I have experience of taking a neighborhood. We took neighborhoods and transformed it into a garden of something beautiful, beneficial. We took neighborhoods like that in the hood, in Brooklyn, Bushwick. We took neighborhoods and made it safe, no drugs, no nothing in there. So, but again, we have a lot of antisociable, but only 20% antisocial. There's always that percentage of our people that always wants to better themselves. Always wants to see the better. I mean, we can do this, bro. We can better ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Even amongst YouTube world. Man, I got into some platform and unbelievable, the trolls and unbelievable. Man, suppressive personality here, antisociable people here. And then you can see how the person, and they reveal themselves as, yeah, my father was like this, my moms were like this, my family. And you say, wow, because they were antisociable people. And that affected you. That's the reason why you act the way you act. Because you was raised up in that environment with an antisociable person. So of course you're gonna act like that. Very pessimistic and very harmful. Stealing. When you steal something, you don't have no respect for the other person's property. That's antisociable. When you go in your neighborhood and you litter and you throw garbage out here, you don't clean up after yourself. You just throw that. That's antisocial because you have no affinity. You have no regards, no nothing for for the next person's coming into that community and seeing. So that's why in neighborhoods, when I was lucky that my mother, we were gypsies. You know why? When we always came into neighborhoods that was nice, very, very, very nice neighborhoods. But then again, when certain of our people moved in there with that antisociable, they brought the neighborhood down, bro. And we saw it, man. Nah, man. And then the landlords just didn't care anymore. And so the garbage started to overflow into the streets. You know what I'm saying? That overload the sanitation department. You know what I'm saying? It just got ridiculous. Because and that suppressive environment. Now there are those that came out of that and grow to be great people out of that suppressive environment. But that takes again a lot of willpower. A lot of willpower. You know? That takes a lot of willpower, the balancing between the willpower and the shame. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I used to be ashamed of going when I went to NYU and seeing how, certain students had certain things that I didn't have, and I had to rely on financial aid and stuff like that, and eat pizza for lunch, but they sitting in a restaurant eating something. But they had, you know what I'm saying? But willpower. And I said to myself, you know what? I'll sit in the park. I'll buy me some fruit, sit in the park and do my work in the Washington Square Park. Who cares about the damn restaurant? See, they try to shame you, and you think you can shame, but you down willpower. You change things easily just by doing that. And on the online, on the cheese channels, the same thing. I get on and you say what you want to say. Go ahead. Say what you want to say. Sometimes I do come out and show my, willpower, whatever. But you got a lot of antisociable, even on, you got a lot of trolls. They hide behind the mouse. They hide behind the computer, but they never come on the line, anything like that. You know what I'm saying? Um, when they speaking derogatory, when they speaking, disgruntled and derogatory, you know what I'm saying? And you're using those narratives, those pessimists, those anti-sociable cursing. That's spiritual ditra, spiritual caca, spiritual debris. And you could tell when a person is taking a lot of that in, how that caca comes out of their mouth. Caca comes out of their mouth because they're taking that in. And they're taking that in, and none come out of their mouth is caca. I hate this. You ain't shit. Because what are they doing? What are they doing? Or cursing, F this, F that, antisocial. But sometimes they suppress it, brought up by antisociable conditions. You know what I'm saying? So you can see this. See, there's people out here. That's behavioral science. You can see this. So I need people that are going to be able to do the work, train to see this so that they can go into neighborhood and heal the neighborhood with these initiatives. Go into the schools and do presentations in the schools. But at the same time, in a way that they spark those young minds and individuals, the future. They're sparking the future. You know what I'm saying? And so they're creating their second wave. They're creating this. You know what I'm saying? They're operating a crystallized intelligence. So I need people like that. I need people like that. I need Boricuas like that. I need Sabians and Nuwapians like that. So that I can bring, say, okay, when I go in front of the summit and speaking with these ambassadors, it says, well, we got ground. We can do groundworks here in the States. We can do things in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico's so behind, man. Oh my God. I mean, there's good things happening within the island, and I know that, and they're doing good work. But in terms of as a whole, in reaching out, and I think because they have a good chokehold on the island of Borinquen, a good chokehold. You know what I'm saying? A good chokehold. Because again, a lot of the oral tradition was killed. A lot of the indigenous people were done with, and a lot of the Africans were not elevated and not given their thing. And even the Iberian Peninsula, because when you go into the Iberian Peninsula, Andalusia, those Berbers were indigenous people of South Africa. They were Africans. Yeah. Even though some of them were mixed with German Visigoth or mixed with Romans and Arabized, but still the core of it came from the Sahara. Mauritania, Algiers, Morocco, all those whole area, Mauritania. And then they spread into the Iberian Peninsula. Iberia, they call it, but it was Andalusia. They called it Andalusia, Andando, because that's the Latin. But that area right there, it's African diaspora, the Berbers, which I'm going to need to find out in their language, what did they call that area? It was part of the Sahara, Green Sahara. It was part of that civilization that was all around the Sahara into the Congo Basin and all the way. The Ma Federation traveled all the way in Ma. And you look at this in humanity, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, I keep reiterating that, which is very important. Ma'indala, 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 ma'indala. Okay? And peace and blessings to you all. And thank you for watching. And look for more content. Tonight, probably well, I don't know. maybe discuss some of the class things. But let me see how I feel. Because it's overcast. When it's overcast like this, I like to watch old movies. Black and white movies, those film noir movies. Oh man, I like that old Humphrey Bogart movies, black and white, silver, the real silver screen. Because you know why I think it is? Because everything looks silver. The sky is in silver. So I don't know, it does something to me. Um, and so let me go my outro and peace and blessings. Ah,